cannot believe what I'm reading. Broken by Shy Keenan. And this is a memoir I got from book sale for 25 pesos. So cheap, so I just got it. It's the most shocking true story of abuse ever told. I've been wimping around trying to start this book because I know that the accounts of abuse here is not fictional. And the fact that it happened in real life really makes my innards melt, boil. Okay, the first part is actually not that interesting. Oh, well, the prologue is about starting at the end, and we find our main character. She's about to do this mission wherein she will talk to her abuser, and she's gonna try to record him say these incriminating things so that she can have that evidence and prove that he was indeed her abuser and to get him in jail and all that. But then she also said towards the end of that prologue that it was necessary for her to, like, before she faces this stepfather, she needs to go back and play the movie of her life from when she was young and when she was experiencing these things. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, it's all about recounting how her family or how she came to be. So she was a daughter of this girl who was brought up in a very bad family background, and her father as well. So basically, when she was young, when she was a baby, she was very neglected. Her cot always smelled of urine and vomit, and she would cry on hours on end just to see if these parents, so-called parents, would arrive. But they leave her for hours at a time. It's so sad that the feelings that she remembers during those times are hunger, distress, and generally just being upset. And now I'm quite intrigued about that because in psychology, it is taught that a human starts remembering memories from like 4 years old. But then this author, she is recounting her experience while she was in the cot. So she was around 2 to 3 years old. Yeah, she recounts moments when she would also get hit, when she won't stop crying. So her memory started very early, and so it makes me feel like maybe that's how bad the experiences she had back then. It was so bad. It was so ingrained in her. So there we go. We have that terrible situation. And then eventually her mom, her good for nothing mom, meets this guy. He set up a front that he's a rich guy. And the gold digger mom was like, okay, let's go. And when they got married and then they moved into his house, she realized that he exaggerated his riches, his privileges, and all that. But the mother was okay with that. She was happy with that because she has a place where she can leave her children. So yeah, we have the main character, main character in the memoir. We have the author and the siblings of the author. So they're left there. And then okay, things got interesting starting chapter 4. What made me feel this to my core is this author. She was 3 to 4 years old when she was first raped by her stepfather. And that hurts me a lot because, like, imagining a grown man raping a child, and this child is almost like my daughter right now is at that age range, and I can't imagine having that innocent of a child to be damaged, corrupted like that. It's just so unbelievable. And what's even more disgusting, okay, he has this stepfather, he has a friend, and he's making that friend do things to her as well. Stepfather has an original daughter, like his own blood. And he lets that other friend rape his daughter as well. And he watches. And while he watches his daughter get raped, he's gonna rape, during that moment, he's gonna get the young girl, our main character, to do stuff to him as well. So it's like he is just so disgusting. And there is also this thing about him taking pictures on a Polaroid camera, and he is taking pictures of the abuse that he's doing to this girl. And eventually, the single friend, it became like several different people. So it's so interesting because the author is telling this story using words that are used by children. For example, she's not really calling it the penis. She's calling it the pee thing, or where the guy pees. And then she calls her like bottom, her poop place, and her pee place. That's what she calls it. And then she calls this the friend as dark haired face. And there's also like eventually there was a red face guy. Eventually there was glasses dude. Not dude, she didn't say dude. Face, glasses face, and all that. Basically, a dozen other men. He got a dozen other men to rape this kid. And she has a younger sister, and she found out that this stepfather was doing the up and down on her sister. And eventually on another day, he was also making her put the pee thing in her mouth like that. And she desperately wanted to save her sister, her younger sister, from that. So she took over and did it. And what's even more terrifying, I know this thing is happening somewhere around the world right now. Someone is getting abused, someone is getting raped, someone is getting sexually assaulted. It left me speechless. My knees were wobbling. And of course, I'm going to continue reading this. It's so hard to read, especially that you're reading from the perspective of a child. It's day 2 of reading this book, and I'm halfway through. So, as we can imagine, she tried telling on this dad. First, she tried telling her mother. She's gone pale, and she was like, Stanley, is this true? Are you asking her to do this? Like, Shy demonstrated what the father's making her do to him. Of course, he denied it. But then Shy said he's doing it to my sisters as well. But then the sisters, they did not back her up. The mother asked Stanley to take the rest of the girls away, like in another room. And she talked to Shy, talked, quote unquote. She washed her daughter's mouth with toilet cleaner and told her that, how could you steal Stanley away from me? She's talking to an 8-year-old. Okay? Okay, she doesn't care about her daughter. Maybe that's why. Okay? But still blaming her. So she tried to tell her mom. She also tried to tell the social worker. So it happened. 'Cause she doesn't go to school often because of, her stepfather prefers if he has access to her 24/7. And actually, she doesn't do well at school either because she can't see or can't hear properly. And later she finds out it's because of the multiple head trauma that she experiences. Imagine like a full grown man and woman, her mother does this as well, hitting a child since the kid was 3 years old. Like that would obviously have repercussions on the physical. The mother needs her to be actually in school so that she can claim the benefits because she's trying to pass her child off as special needs. And so one social worker went to their house to see how this young girl is doing. Why isn't she going to school? And yeah, basically what's going on at home, and is she really special needs? And then she just couldn't, like, she saw that moment that maybe she could tell this older authority figure what's really happening. And she said it like, my stepfather makes me suck his. And then the social worker was like, her face suddenly became pale. She asked the father, is this true? And obviously Stanley said, no, that's not true. And actually, she forces herself on me. Sometimes I just can't stop her. So he is making her like seem like a sexual deviant. And then now the girl is regretting, Shy is regretting ever saying anything. Because why the heck would this social worker believe a grown man who is likely to be lying, believing him over this girl who has no reason to lie about that? And first of all, where is she gonna learn that? Later on, the stepfather's like, oh, she learned that from her actual biological father. And Shy knows that she didn't. So that comment from the social worker actually perpetuated itself in her record. So every time she goes into the hospital, like they will find out that she has an STD, like an 11-year-old girl has an STD. The hospital is like, oh, because she's a sexual deviant child. There was also this instance where she went to this other place to visit her nanny or something, and there was this guy who was waiting outside his apartment door, and he called her in, and then he forced himself on her. He did the horrible on her, and he said right after, "So, do you want paper money or do you want sweets?" And then Shai was like, I've never had paper money before, so okay, I'll get the paper money. So it's like this transactional situation. She was doing it because, number one, at least she's getting something from it. Whereas if her stepfather is doing it to her, she gets nothing. Her belief was birthdays and Christmases and other like happy holidays are things just won't happen to her. These are things that happen to other people. And the horrible things that's happening to her, like, it's only happening to her. It's always been said to her by her stepfather that she's a bad, naughty, dirty girl. And obviously she's not, because he's the one who's doing these things to her. But he has gaslighted her so much that she started believing that she is bad, dirty, and naughty. Right. And then there's also this moment where Stanley was raping Shy, and during that moment, the mother came in, and Shy saw this, and she found this opportunity to finally get Stanley in trouble. I mean, to see that he's actually doing this to her, and she wasn't lying. So she started flailing her arms around so that her mom would know that she is not willing in participating in this sexual act. And then the mom was like, what's going on here? What's going on here? And Stanley was like, whoop, got off her. And then he zipped his fly up. And then he said, she's having an epileptic shock. So stupid. I'm laughing because it's so stupid. She's having an epileptic shock. That is what he said. And the mother was like, oh no, oh no. I'll hold her arms and you hold her legs. And then they brought her to the hospital and saying that she did have this epileptic episode. And that was a moment when Shai realized that her mother, after all this time, knew that she was being sexually abused. But she decided to turn a blind eye on this because most likely Stanley was prostituting Shai, and he's getting a lot of money for that because these people are using Shai, taking pictures of her and videos of her and selling it on the black market. So he's getting a lot of money, and for sure Stanley's giving some to the mother. Shai was really, really sad because she knew that her mother didn't love her back, but she had no idea that this is how much she despised her own daughter. She was almost adopted as well by her aunt and uncle who really loves her. And but then before that happened, so the mom said, sure, okay, adopt her, whatever. But before that happened, there was this episode that they made up. They called on the mental hospital to restrain Shy while she was sleeping. Okay, so Shy was sleeping. She woke up. Suddenly, a lot of hands were on her, and they were like tying her up for stabbing her sister. So that is what Stanley and the mom said. And then she got in trouble. She was in the hospital. She was given these pills and all that. And then after like 7 weeks in that hospital, she got home and she asked her sister, like, did they stab you or something? Or how did they prove that I stabbed you? And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So these people, these authorities who took Shy, didn't even bother asking the said sibling who was stabbed. So they just took the word of Stanley and the mom. I'm utterly left speechless by this book. I am, like I said, 57% of the way through, and I think I'm gonna finish it tonight or maybe tomorrow morning. I'm happy for Shy that she has lived to tell the story, but at the same time, it's so upsetting that she even has this kind of story to tell. If you can grab a copy of this book in your library or Amazon, Kindle, grab it. So, very good. It wasn't the social services people who helped her in the end, it wasn't the police. No one, like no authority, listened to her. She contacted the media. She gathered evidence throughout. So she was able to escape actually. When she was moving to one care facility to another, she was able to escape in one of them, and then she just fled, forgot her name, made friends, and she she lived by stealing. And she still tried to contact her sister after all these years, and her sister told her that Stanley's become even worse because he has been abusing like even super young kids, children who are babies who weren't even off their nappies yet or they can't even talk. Stanley also started taking interest in little boys. So it was just, he had access to multiple kids in the house, and I cannot fathom that. Why are these parents leaving their kids in Stanley's care? Shy was almost about to end it all because when she was trying to gather evidence, her sister and her, they were trying to not film, tap the phone calls wherein her sister would call Stanley, and he has a loose tongue. So he's going to explain the things that he's been doing to Shy or he had done to Shy back then. And when Shy heard all of those things again in his voice, it just brought her back to that dark place in her life. So it was really tough for her sister as well. But anyway, she was able to gather all those evidence and she sent them to the media because they might listen. Like no one is listening, and I should try one more time. And then she approached this personality who listened to her story and they wanted to make a documentary in the end. I actually want to find the documentary. And when it came out, like people then started listening, and she was able to get a chance to bring Stanley and Reg, the other guy, and another person in court so that they can be brought to justice. It's so upsetting also that a lot of the victims of Stanley, they were not strong-willed enough. Some of the victims chose to just end it all. This is such a depressing read. I mean, it's a happy ending because he got caught, but he was caught when he was, what, 75 years old? He was gonna die in prison, and he just got away with everything. Also, social services was saving its bum, okay, their butt. If social services did actually start to do this investigation in Stanley, blah blah blah, it would be revealed that they weren't doing their job in the first place because this has perpetuated for far too long. So there are a lot of abusers also. Oh yes, I did not mention it, but when she was in these care facilities, they had abusers in there too. So the people who were supposed to be taking care of her, like they see her file and then it says that, this child has a penchant for suddenly sexually assaulting you. Well, some of these men started abusing her. And these are people in the social services. So she literally had nowhere to run. So, how does that feel? Like being completely alone, no one believes you. Everywhere you go, there is a chance of the horrible happening to you. Um, okay, that's it. Bye.